welcome to the CANA Connection Podcast. On today's podcast, we have special guest Kendall Chastain of the Colorado Mountain Club. She'll be joining our host Rob Cranston and guest host Norm Reitter of CANA to talk about conservation, the Colorado Mountain Club, and the CMC RIMs app. So without further ado, let's head into the show. Rob, take it away.
Hey, welcome everybody to the CANA Connection Podcast. It is March 9th, 2023, guys. It's rolling quick. Time is rolling quick. But we have on our podcast today, special guest from Colorado Mountain Club, Kendall Chastain. She's a conservation manager. Welcome, Kendall. And with me is with the Caners, our production manager and all-time favorite co-op Beam, and our Chief Operations Officer, Norm Reitter. And in fact, Norm is the champion to get this podcast put together and connected. So we're looking forward to it. So again, Kendall, welcome.
Thanks, Rob, and thanks, Co and Norm. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And for everybody's sake, so Kendall, you're over there with everybody in the Colorado frontier, and so is Norm, and Co's up in Pennsylvania, and I'm in the Northern Virginia area. So we're all over the country here, all good stuff. Kendall, let's start with your background and give us a perspective on that professional journey to where you are today at CMC.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I started my career in land management, actually just working seasonal jobs with the Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management. I was a trail crew leader, worked on a backcountry trail crew for a few seasons, worked as a park ranger for a season, and really just got to experience the outdoors and the area that we all love, like to take care of, through the lens of land management. And then, once I got out of college, I decided I got to get that big girl job, got to get the health insurance. So I transitioned over into the nonprofit world and stopped working seasonal jobs. First started my nonprofit career with Volunteers for Outdoor Colorado. I was their volunteer and outreach coordinator. And then I came to Colorado Mountain Club in June of 2021 as the conservation coordinator, and have been working on a variety of projects, including advocacy work, partnership work, RIMs, stewardship, all sorts of stuff. So all over the map, but really exciting to get to dip my toes in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so neat. And that leads to give us a perspective and overview of the Colorado Mountain Club.
Yeah, so the Colorado Mountain Club is based out of Golden, Colorado. It has been in existence since 1912. The organization is, I would say, primarily focused on outdoor recreation. We do a lot of classes, youth programming, adult programming, trips. The whole goal of it is just to make sure that we have responsible recreators in Colorado. We are teaching them how to recreate responsibly and how to get out, how to meet people, and do all this cool stuff. However, the conservation department, which I work in, is kind of in response to that. If we're going to be responsible for getting all of these people outside and the impact that also creates, we also want to make sure that we're helping to mitigate that impact through our stewardship programs, through our recreation monitoring programs, through advocacy. So we try to keep things in balance with that.
Excellent. Good. And by the way, for our audience out there, go to www.cmc.org. That's where you can find a lot more information, and as well as member sign up. In fact, I signed up recently. Again, I had signed up years ago, but I hadn't, and I just noticed that the variety of opportunity to volunteer, to take part. What an awesome chance for those in that region. And that gets into being that you're in that specifically in Colorado. Do you guys often get a chance to meet with and or take part in other similar type of programs that are in other states?
Similar for conservation or similar for...
Yeah, I think across all that.
Yeah, we actually definitely do. We have quite a bit of partnerships outside of the state and around the nation. With our RIMS program, we have partners in most of the Mountain West states with our partner Winter Wildlands Alliance. So they have volunteers working with us and using the CMC RIMS app in California, Oregon, Washington, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Nevada. I'm sure I'm missing some states. I'm trying to remember my 7th grade geography over here.
Cool.
But we work with a lot of folks for the RIMS program. We've also worked with that, like the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, trying to utilize the RIMS program along those trail corridors. And then just with our recreation programs, we are modeled after the Mountaineers, which is based out of Seattle. We worked with them pretty closely when we relaunched our website this past year. And, we're always open to kind of working with people where there's always a natural partnership. So excited about that.
Cool. Oh, I did want to ask you, what's total membership size at CMC today?
Whew, I didn't pull it today, but the last I checked, we're hovering right around 6,000. I think just about 6,000 members currently across the
huge.
state.
Gosh, Norm, just pacing that's a tremendous. Did you see a lot of that plus up? Perhaps I see a lot, but post COVID or during COVID time, did you see? Did CMCC see that uptick?
We actually, like everybody, there's a lot of ebb and flow with COVID. I think we kind of went down in membership numbers a little bit during COVID because we couldn't get out. Nobody could get out and go on the trips. Nobody could go to classes. But we're starting to see that growth and people come back and people be more interested in getting outside, but taking care of it as well.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. Good stuff. Well, hey, I'm going to hand it over to my partner in crime over there, Norm Reitter. He's got some questions for you. Norm, all yours.
Oh, great. Well, thanks, Rob. Hey, Kendall. It's always good to see you. I know we see each other a lot, and it's great to see you on this podcast, too. I remember during the COVID timeframes, and I know we still have lingering effects of that, where like the Front Range, especially like Boulder and those areas, their trailheads were getting slammed because everybody was trying to get out. I know the governor of Colorado was really saying, "Hey, everybody, get out! Get outside." And you guys took a lot of leadership when it came to tracking and monitoring trailhead parking, and we're doing some counting and data collection there, which was super helpful, I think, to really understand, kind of quantify some of the busyness and congestion that they saw on the trails. So I wanted to get a little bit into more about CMC RIMs, of course, because that's part of my passion, and I know we share that passion, collecting data and using that data for land managers' use. So I was hoping that you could just talk a little bit about CMC RIMs from your perspective and how you're using it to support Colorado Mountain Club's conservation mission.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Let's back up a second and just talk about what is RIMS. RIMS is our Recreation Impact Monitoring System. We call it RIMS for short because that's a lot of syllables to try to fit in one. So we use that to collect data on specifically recreation resources, whether that be trails, trailheads, signs, facilities, visitor use, anything like that. We want it to be a tool for land managers to see real-time data coming in with photos, with notes, with GPS points to locate the issue that recreators are collecting without it really being a burden on people. I think a lot of people are really interested in giving back, but the one thing that nobody has is time. So it's hard to get out and volunteer for people who have full-time jobs. It's hard to get out and do stewardship, but this is a tool that we have that people can just, bring their phone, stick it in their pocket when they come across an issue or something they want to report through the app and notify a lane manager. It's as easy as just pulling out your phone, snapping a picture, putting a couple of notes in. And then, you don't have to go out of your way. You can still spend your time doing the things that you love and enjoy without really doing that much extra to give back as well. So that is what the RIMS app is to me, and that's really how I kind of use it personally.
Yeah, fantastic. I've always been impressed with how you really adeptly coordinate across multiple, what I call user groups, within, outdoor recreation and land management, where you do a lot of coordination with land managers across the nation, in Colorado with Colorado Parks and Wildlife, but also, with the Forest Service and BLM mostly, and I think some with the Park Services. It's really impressive to me how you coordinate between, providing information to land managers based on crowdsourced data through RIMS, And then also at the same time, really do a great job engaging local, nonprofit groups who support land managers in their area. And they're the ones that, as we know, like collect the data and crowdsource the data, and being an organically grown effort, what you guys put into it to help increase the usability and the use of CMC RIMS is impressive. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit about, like how you collaborate with land managers, how you collaborate with local volunteer groups to make that all happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we do that. Sometimes we are approached by the land manager, and when that's the case, we work with them to identify what their primary data collection needs are, how they want to have that data accessible to them, and how they want to use that. And then from there, we can kind of help them work on strategies on engaging volunteers. We have found that we have the most success with our land managers and our programs when there is already like an existing active volunteer group. So the Forest Service, for example, can tap into a Friends of kind of group. They're already getting out there and volunteering in whatever capacity that might be. It's not super difficult for them to go through, our 15-minute RIMS training. We have a YouTube video that they can watch, so don't even have to go to a real class or anything if you don't want to. And then just get out, and when you're doing whatever else you're doing, whether that's trail work, whether that's, social contacts, wilderness monitoring, rangering, you can add the data collection component onto any of that and start collecting data in addition to all of that. So that's probably our most successful model. Occasionally, though, we are approached by those partner groups. I would say our partnership with Winter Wildlands Alliance is a great example of that. They are using their data that their volunteer groups and their local chapters are collecting to form an overall story for the Mountain West region and see what the winter use is and use that as a really powerful data component for their advocacy, so they can point to specific data and say, hey, this is exactly what is going on and this is why we need XYZ changes. So it's really exciting, and really what we do is just work with them to see what they need and why and how they can use that, and then take that and roll from there.
Yeah, that's great. Like I said, it's just impressive to see you orchestrating across all those different user groups, and bringing national groups like Winter Wildlands Alliance and some of the others that you've brought on, and then just to see how CMC RIMS, just through basically word of mouth and some of the exposure that you guys have, how it continues to grow. And it's really neat to see the data just pop up, where people have collected data like on the Appalachian Trail or in the Appalachians, or in I know recently you've been engaged by the World Trails Group, which is pretty impressive. So you're getting some really great publicity and awareness, and people see the value. So being close to the RIMS software, I know that we provide the CMC RIMS mobile app, which is the really easy to use data collector that's free to everybody to crowdsource. And then we have other layers on that different user groups use. Like we have a dashboard capability for people to look at trending and other information to really zero in on issues and where data was collected that might point to improvements that need to be made on trails or campsites, or where there's high recreation going on. And then we also have an ArcGIS data service that supports groups like nonprofits and land managers that have bought into ArcGIS Online, and they can just create a layer. We provide them a layer on their maps. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like how you see some of the features in the mobile app and others like in changing going forward. I know we have a very stable, very well-used environment now. But we're always looking for ways to evolve that. And so maybe you could share a little bit of your insights into vision for where that's going to go.
Absolutely. As far as the mobile app goes, I definitely see us, doing some more upgrades and feature capabilities. I think a lot of the improvements that we've made to the app over the year has really come from user-driven suggestions, which I think is really, really cool because we are not only designing this app to be user-friendly, we're designing it to collect the data based on feedback from our partners and from the users. So I see us, adding additional assessments based on what people are interested in collecting data on, whether that's things like wildlife assessments or, whatever the case might be. We can probably, add those, and as well as add additional features and capabilities. I know that you and I have talked a lot about and been approached a lot about, having some linear features in there. We've had people ask us simple things like, can we have meters instead of just feet? Actually, that was some of our partners from outside of the U.S. Who wanted that, which is such a thing, that we don't even think about here in the U.S. And so it's really cool to have these outside perspectives that we can take and use to continuously improve the app. And I really appreciate that about our user base.
Great. Well, thanks for that. And I have one more question. And I've just been very impressed with how the Colorado Mountain Club's team, management team, leadership team, executive team, and board have really focused on a long-term strategy. And I know you've spent some time putting that together. And I think you have a great vision, for where conservation is going within the Colorado Mountain Club. I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about your longer term vision for conservation with the Colorado Mountain Club, maybe in stewardship or in conservation or in RIMS collection. I'm always really interested in collecting the data and seeing how it's used and how it could be used, for CMC's broader mission. So maybe you could talk a little bit about, the CMC strategy and as it relates to conservation and how you see that moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say the strategy for CMC conservation, at least is how it relates to the broader club membership. What we really want to see is, our members being engaged with the conservation program, whether that's simply through using RIMS, through what they're already doing. We are kind of working with getting our trip leaders who are certified to go through training to also know how to do training for RIMS. So when they lead these trips, they can tell people who just show up to go on a hike or go on a bike or whatever, hey, this is how we use RIMS, this is what it is, and if you see something while you're out on this trip, you can collect data. That's really cool to see us really integrating some of these programs further within the club, including things like our stewardship, including things like our advocacy work, when we have opportunities for people to get involved with providing comments on NEPA documents, reaching out to legislators on important issues that relate to the broader club, whatever the case might be. And then we also are still using the RIMS program to address some of these recreation issues that relate to our advocacy and relate to our stewardship work. We use RIMS to plan out sometimes our stewardship work on trails. We'll use it as a reconnaissance trail. One of us managers will go out and hike an area where we know we're going to go do work and see exactly what's going on out there, so we know where our crews are going to be working, what tools to send them out with, approximately how much work there is to do, how long it'll take them to do, and just where to focus their efforts. And that's kind of how a lot of our land managers are using it as well. So it's cool for us to be able to say that we're doing the same things. And we're doing the same things with our advocacy. We're providing visitor use numbers to our Forest Service partners who can then say, oh, wow, there's a lot of use at this certain trailhead. We need to provide more parking spaces, or we need to designate campsites along this corridor. And it's really just exciting to say that we have a hand in these actual on-the-ground improvements in Colorado. And not just Colorado, that's how the RIMS app is being used elsewhere. Just really exciting and kind of heartwarming for me to feel like Colorado Mountain Club has a little bit of hand in these things that have an actual improvement and make a real difference on the ground for people who go out and recreate every day.
That's just really impressive, and it just always impresses me the reach that Colorado Mountain Club is one of the top 5 mountain clubs in the country, has, and how other mountain clubs look to you for certain leadership areas, and I think data collection and use is one of them, of course. So yeah, thank you for sharing all your thoughts and like I said, what you do makes a big difference, and we really appreciate you doing it. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Rob.
Yeah, this is what good stuff here. Because let me ask you, Kendall and Norm, I know you can comment on this as well. So back to kind of more of a more specific question. So in the RIMS app, I'm a member. I'm providing this data, and that data then comes to. And I think Kendall, you said it. Like maybe there needs to be a new parking lot or a situation where there needs to accommodate that surge, right? Where does that data go? I mean, who picks up then? Like, how do you go from that point and that information, and where does it go?
Yeah, great question. All of our data is uploaded into a cloud-hosted repository, and then our partners on the land management side or the partner group side can then access that data through either the data service or the dashboard that Norm touched on earlier. The dashboard, it's more of an analytics feature. You can have all the data analysis done for you, which is really nice if you're super busy and there's a ton of data coming in. But if you just want to know like where certain issues are coming in, you want to do the analysis yourself, whatever, then the data service is an awesome option for those people. We have a cloud-hosted CSV file that updates every day at midnight for those. So you're really seeing the data as it comes in, which is really cool. So yeah, it's just a matter for us of, getting more users so that our land manager partners can see the value of it. But at the same time, having land manager partners so that users say, oh yeah, my data is being used by people. It's not just going up into the cloud and staying there.
Yeah, just to add on to that too, that's great. So anybody can download the CMC RIMS mobile app. You don't have to be a member of Colorado Mountain Club. Anybody can, and you can download it from Apple or the Google Play Store. So you could also go to the Colorado Mountain Club's conservation website, and they have a great page on providing a RIMS overview and then a link to download it. And then once you download it, any user can start collecting data. They can start collecting data on their check-in or like basic information. Now, if they want to dive into some of the more advanced assessment features that get into things like a more advanced trail assessment, campsite assessment, signs and facilities, if they're tuned in with Winter Wildlands Alliance and want to do those type of assessments, or within the Oregon and the Pacific Northwest BLM area where they have their own wilderness or wildlife assessments. I forget what they are off the top of my head, but there's some really cool like special assessment features that you can access once you do a very quick online training that Colorado Mountain Club has set up and they facilitate. And it's really cool because once someone passes that training, the administrator and Kendall or someone else can go in and easily just click. Yeah, Kendall, she can upgrade their user status, and the next time they open up the mobile app, now they have access to all those great assessments. Now, when they're out on trail, they can say, "Oh, there's a down tree. Let me mark that," or "Let me create an assessment for this washed out area of the trail," or "Hey, this is really overgrown and we know it's used a lot, so let me record that." So it gives you so many more options. And one of the other cool features is that working with Kendall and others from the Colorado Mountain Club, there are basically flags based on the assessment that you create. There's certain conditions that Kendall and her team have worked out with land managers so that if like you do an assessment and it says, hey, the trail is in this condition, it would automatically create what we call an issue. And then that just flags the land managers or the nonprofit group who's kind of helping maintain those trails to identify, hey, let me focus on, those trails or those campsites maybe that have a lot of waste or whatever. And in doing that, it provides that direct feedback. So you can go from downloading the app this morning, right now, to putting in assessments this afternoon and identifying something that a land manager could be flagged in their dashboard tomorrow. So it's pretty fast, and it's pretty cool how we put the power of that data collection and the meaningful data in the hands of anybody who wants to do it, wherever they are in the country or the world, and people see it and they use it. So that's part of the excitement I get by talking through that process. Kendall, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I mean, just on the note of the RIMS quiz is what we call it. That is the sort of training that we have you do. That's just our measure of providing some level of data quality assurance to our land manager partners so that the data that they're getting is actually worthwhile. It's not just junk data that they have to sift through and doesn't actually tell them anything. And that's really helpful and beneficial so they actually have useful data. And when we do our issues, the issue flags, those generally relate to things like access or safety issues, things that are really high priority and need to be addressed right away for our land managers. So whether that's something like the bridge is washed out because there's like a flash flood, or all of a sudden there's like a 24-inch diameter tree, really big, blocking a trail or blocking a road or something, we can direct our land managers to focus their efforts on these really high priority areas while still providing them data to help with long-term planning needs. And then one more thing I'll just really reiterate, not sure if we mentioned this or not, but the app is free for all our users. Anyone who wants to download it can download it for free. It's no cost associated for people who want to collect data, and who doesn't love free stuff. So just wanted to make sure we mentioned that.
CMC.org.
Yep, cmc.org/RIMS.
/RIMS. Yeah. Can everybody tell out there in our audience that Kendall and Norm have a tremendous passion for this and just help at this excitement. So please go out there and check it out. It's awesome. You guys, it's infectious to hear you guys. And Kendall, I know with your last outgoing question here is, you're optimistic about conservation in general.
You have to be, if you don't have hope driving your mission, if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, you're not going to be effective. You're not going to affect change. And I really want to, Colorado is my home. I'm born and raised here. I have a really strong connection to the place. And I want to make sure that this place exists and that the opportunities exist for people to get out and connect with our natural world in whatever way that is, whether that's data collection, whether that's, citizen science, hiking, biking, just hanging out, just looking at the mountains from your back porch. I just want to ensure that those opportunities are there for people, and whatever mission kind of aligns with that really gives me strong hope that, we are making difference, even if it is just a little chunk at a time. Every little bit counts.
Oh, I love it. Hey, everybody, go find Kendall Chastain. Conservation Manager, Colorado Mountain Club. Fantastic discussion. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking for a follow-up that we do this. We've at the CANA Connection, we've had podcasts that are live in person, like actual, other than 1D, one-dimensional. So we go out actually on a trail and we actually go through and maybe perhaps go through the functionality of the RIMS application. And what do you think?
Show the app in action.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys want to go hike?
Well, by the way, let me just, our production manager, engineer, Co-op Beam, do you have any questions, good sir?
I do. They probably touch upon some stuff you guys have already talked about, but a couple, and they're two very different questions. First one, because we talked about RIMS being used outside of Colorado, like I know, well, we helped develop it and everything like that, but there's a huge conglomerate of the developers for it that are in my area, so like the Pennsylvania area. So I know, like, we've used it some. I am not a big hiker, so I haven't used it all that much. But I do have a new EV vehicle, motorcycle coming, so I'll be using that to go out and get to some locations and everything like that. My question.
Wow.
Oh yeah. I don't know when it's showing up, but my question is there like a outside of Colorado who has used it most? Like, is there like a location? Like, I know you guys are close, obviously, to a lot of more, mountainous hiking type states and everything like that. But is there like some aberrant ones? You're like, there's people using this in Louisiana for some reason or something like that. Like, is there anything that has surprised you about people using it in certain locations?
That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head where outside of Colorado we're getting the most data coming in. I would probably have to say somewhere in the Pacific Northwest or California, we're getting a lot of data coming in from there. Right now, and again, I'd have to double check these numbers for you, but we do have data coming in from over 30 states in the U.S. Some of the most surprising data assessments have come in from South Africa and Australia, which was kind of
Oh,
cool to see.
wow.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's fun to see it like start slowly weaving out, not just in the United States, but around the world. And then we also have a good partner group in Alaska who is kind of doing their own spin on RIMS to collect data. And Norma, you could probably talk a little bit more about them if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just add, like we mentioned earlier in the podcast, we have, Colorado is like where we have the majority of our data. And Kendall, I haven't looked this morning. I think we're over 8,000 assessments already, which is cool because it's data that wouldn't otherwise be collected. We have a big concentration that has developed in the Oregon area, especially the South and the Southeast Oregon desert region, and they support Pacific Northwest BLM region. And then we have, as Kendall mentioned, a lot of great data collection going on in the Sierra Nevada through the Winter Wildlands Alliance, and they'll continue to get snow and it'll be wintertime there for a few more months. So there's a lot more data collection there. In addition to that, we've seen data pop up in like North Carolina in the western part of the state where there's a lot of great mountain trails and there's a lot of U.S. Forest Service managed land. Also, up and down the Appalachian chain, we see some smattering of data collected. So every once in a while, we'll see like one pop up in Hawaii. And then, like Kendall said, there's a really strong user group to support some of the Native American tribes in Alaska. And they're using the RIMS for some of the same features that we have in the CMC RIMS mobile app and dashboards. And then they also have added some additional custom assessments that they use to collect other type of data that they need to kind of manage their native kind of area that they live and that they rely on for sustenance, which is very cool repurposing of the app. So there's a lot of really great groundswell of use. And like I said, a lot of this is just organic word of mouth, people getting exposed to it maybe through a conference or through, understanding Colorado Mountain Club's reputation and go to their website and be like, oh, what's that? So it's really cool to see data pop up all over the place. And it's really neat to see how some of these groups, the nonprofits groups, have really organized to have a really structured data collection plan so that they can collect the data in certain spots over time, and they can start seeing trends and they can start highlighting issues for the land managers in their area.
Yeah, and another kind of cool thing about it is, it's meant for use across all sorts of different public lands, whether that's Forest Service, Park Service, BLM, county parks and open space. You can use it on, your urban parks and trails to report issues on just like, the trash can's full or tipped over. The same issues that affect the backcountry also affect the front country. So it makes it a very versatile app. You can use it all over the place. You can use it, not just in Colorado, not just in one state. You can, I went out to Maine last August and had our first assessments come in from Acadia National Park while I was out there, which is kind of fun. And those are just, assessments I submitted while I was on vacation because I saw something and figured, hey, why not record it? And anybody can do that. And even if there's not an existing partnership in a certain location, you can share assessments directly as a PDF or a text to the land manager or volunteer group that might be able to do something about it. So the RIMS app can still be used to collect data and make a difference, even when you're not at home, even when there's not an existing partnership already. There's a lot of use for it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one more thing to that. I know to that part, this is a great conversation, and what I've found and what I've seen, I think maybe Kendall has mentioned this, is that we get very passionate users where they're like, hey, I see what's happening based on increased outdoor use or increased use in my area, and we see that a lot in the mountain towns in Colorado and throughout the Mountain West. And so people want to be able to say, hey, what can I do about that? Well, you can collect the data. And like Kendall said, you can share it with your local municipality or your local region. And so in a lot of ways, CMC RIMS is meant for very localized data collection. That's the whole piece. So if someone's out there and they're like, oh, hey, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, they could be like, hey, I'm going to start collecting data in these areas because I see that there is signs of use or overuse, and we want to preserve this for future use. And it's in my backyard, and so they have a way to collect that data and to get it out. And that's where we see a lot of the organic nature of CMC RIMs popping up, where and that's where us getting the word out that it's available for use for anybody for free. Anybody can collect it and send that information, that structured information, to their local manager, whoever that is, whether it's municipality, region, state, Forest Service. So yeah, it's pretty
Great
cool.
comments. Yeah, no, this is God, what a, like you mentioned, or exactly. This is such a great conversation. I can't wait to have a second part 2 to this, which we will in the future have.
Questions for the part two.
Right.
So.
All right, close us out, my friend.
Well, thank you. Like I said, I'll save my additional questions for a follow up on this and everything like that, because I have questions on like if RIMS has been used for like some kind of like emergency thing that has been.
Well, you're going to ask. Do you want to ask that right? You really want to ask? I know you really want to ask that question, don't you?
I'll hold on to it. It will lead another 15 minutes of discussion. So,
well, I'll just touch on that briefly. Give me 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So Kendall, I mean, and you're probably aware of this. This came up with the Alaska partners, and it actually came up more recently in some of the Forest Service lands. So one of the cool features of CMC RIMS is that you can collect data offline, right? So in the mobile app, you can sync up your data when you're online, either with Wi-Fi or cellular data, whatever your mobile device supports. And then you can go into offline mode, and then you sync up the data when you come back. And that's really important because a lot of these places where people recreate don't have cell phone coverage. They don't have WeBoost or like some type of cell phone booster, and they don't have Wi-Fi, right? So that ability is important. Now, what we've seen is that some people are like, hey, can we use CMC RIMS to check in and check out? Meaning, I'm going to do some data collection in the backcountry. I'm not going to have connectivity. Can I check out so that people know where I'm going and then check back in? And that way people know if I don't check in within a certain time frame, maybe I need help. And so because a lot of these places are backcountry, and CMC RIMS is dependent on your mobile device for communication. We can't always be the 911 of the backcountry. However, there are things that we could do if we add those features to be able to check in and check out, if you will. So your local land manager, coordinator, rescue service knows like who's back there and who's back in the backcountry. So those are some
like
of the
safety,
that,
right? Like a safety feature, right?
Yeah, tremendously useful. Kendall, where can people reach you? One last shout out.
Fair enough. Yeah. If you want more information about the CMC RIMS program, just visit cmc.org/RIMS. You can see a lot of our resources, some example maps, anything like that. And if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to conservation@cmc.org.
Hey, big thanks goes out to Kendall Chastain for joining us on the CANA Connection Podcast today. If you would like to find out more about the Colorado Mountain Club, of course, like she said, head on over to cmc.org. And while you're there, sign up for all their information and download the CMC RIMS app. For the CANA Connection Podcast, this is Koa Beam signing off for Rob Cranston, Norm Reitter, and the rest of the CANA Connection Podcast crew, reminding you to analyze, assess, and execute. Catch you next time.